in broad daylight for the world to see. We, as black men, we've seen a lot of stuff as far as murders and people being taken from us, right? True. But now, not only it's been seen by us and our brothers, but it's been seen by our children now. So I'm sitting there watching this, and my daughter tells me, Dad, I can't leave you because I seen what happened to your friend, and I think you need me. My daughter's 6 years old.
Right.
But my daughter to see that and tell me that I need her at 6, imagine what the pain and the frustration is in my mind right now.
Stephen A. Smith joins us now live. And Stephen A., I know you're on a scheduled vacation this week, so I appreciate you coming on to give us your perspective. Riots taken over the city of Minneapolis over the last couple of days. Today, we finally saw the police officer, Derek Chauvin, that was fired. Finally, he was arrested. What's your reaction, Stephen A., to everything?
Well, first of all, I want to take a moment to send my condolences to George Floyd's family. Stephen Jackson, somebody we all know, we work with him. He's been a contributor with ESPN, is doing a great job with his podcast with Matt Barnes, All the Smoke. We know how authentic and real he is. And his emotions are not fake. They definitely come from a real place, and I think that he speaks on behalf of African Americans everywhere, and not just African Americans, but any decent, God-fearing human being that witnessed what we witnessed. And I think we have to take these things into consideration and just crystallize what the moment entailed. You have a police officer with his knee on the neck of this black man who is handcuffed. He has it on his knee on his neck for over 8 minutes. 2.5 of those minutes was after there was no response from George Floyd. And what you don't see in that particular video, but another video from across the street, which just displayed over other cable networks, was 2 of the 3 other officers were literally kneeling on his leg. This is the epitome of completely unnecessary. It is excessive. It is egregious. And as far as I'm concerned, every black man in America knows that that police officer should have been arrested the day he was fired. He should have been put in handcuffs along with those officers. Of course, he should be charged with murder. Of course, those officers should be charged as well. Not just the 2 officers that were leaning on his legs, on George Floyd's legs, but the other officer who was standing around watching out as folks walked by, and he was talking to those individuals, keeping them at bay when they were informing the police officers. The man said he cannot breathe. He was crying. He was calling for his mother. These are the kind of things that are so reprehensible, so egregious, that something has to be done. And I'm not about to sit here and tell you that we should condone rioting. We should never condone such a thing, particularly and specifically in our very own neighborhoods. That's just the epitome of counterproductivity. But in the end, you can certainly understand where the frustration emanates from. Remember, in 2014, Sage, you had NBA players walking around with "I Can't Breathe" T-shirts, courtesy of Eric Garner, the Staten Island man that was choked to death outside of a grocery store by a police officer who ultimately was acquitted, if I remember correctly. Remember, in 2017, Philando Castile in Minnesota, he was shot 7 times by a police officer sitting in the passenger seat of a car with a 4-year-old child in the backseat and his girlfriend right beside him. He was unarmed, but he had informed the police officer that he had a firearm in the glove compartment or in the car, but hadn't reached for it, informed the police officer that he had it, and the police officer still screamed at him, "Don't reach for it," and then shot him 7 different times. These are the kind of things that African-American athletes who come from destitute and deprived backgrounds, who come from poverty-stricken neighborhoods, these are the people they communicate with. They don't just come from these neighborhoods. We grew up in these neighborhoods, not just athletes, but sports commentators and reporters like myself. We grew up in the streets throughout the United States of America. We come from urban communities throughout the United States, and we're accustomed to seeing this kind of nonsense take place. That's not to say that we have a license to be irresponsible and label every police officer bad or every police officer negative, because we recognize the fact that when we get in trouble, we're going to dial 911. We're definitely going to call police officers, so we do have a responsibility to make sure that we don't castigate all law enforcement officials. But the reality is that this has happened on too many occasions. The athletes themselves know it. their friends, their family members, their loved ones know it, which is why the LeBron James, the Steph Currys of the world feel compelled to speak out. And as a result of sports being the gorgeous mosaic that it is, where white and black and people from all different races and ethnic and cultural backgrounds come together, it's why they can understand the Carson Wentz of the world, the Steve Kerrs of the world, the Stan Van Gundy's of the world, the Tom Brady's of the world, and others. They understand to some degree where all of this is coming from because they share the same locker room. Something has to be done, and in my opinion, in this specific incident, a lot could have been avoided if the police officer was arrested the moment he was fired. If you had enough evidence to fire him, you had enough evidence to arrest him on the spot before those riots took place. They're taking place, whether we agree with it or not, they're taking place because an African American, a disenfranchised community is trying to give a voice and give a face and give potency to the fact that we are treated